Howdy, my name is Nate, and as we all know, domestic violence is an unacceptable behavior from one spouse to another, or any form of relationship for that matter in a household, and that abuse can happen in all sorts of forms of verbal or physical types of actions. So, why exactly does this occur, or why would one person want to treat another in such a way? The question I took up was whether societal factors and strain theories could explain this course of action, or whether learning theories and learning off others could explain domestic violence. To start, the labeling theory would explain those who abuse their spouse with no remorse. Some theorists could argue that these abusers may not consider their behavior as immoral or wrong, or like they did nothing wrong. And this is a huge problem for these abusers, as those who commit it will continue to do so as a reoccurring action for others to see and possibly learn off of. And that brings me to the learning theories. Right now, we are learning that the learning theory suggests that behavior is learned, whether it is cultural ideas, learning by association, or social learning, which is just learning off of one another, essentially. So let me explain why this could be an explanation of domestic violence. Targeting children, this new research is giving scientists a little bit of insight behind the far-reaching explanation and long-lasting harms that domestic violence can cause children that grew up witnessing it. The results that they were receiving from it is that they say that those children who witness domestic violence at a younger age tend to have a higher risk of committing the same actions when they're older. This perfectly falls into social learning, as these kids follow exactly what they learned was okay from their parents or other kids' parents. According to the Weinberger Divorce and Family Law, statistics that they provide us tell us that most domestic abuse and domestic violence acts are almost like a regional thing. They found that most domestic cases are in fact concentrated in poverty type areas, almost like a hotspot. And these groups of areas, all learning off individuals, could explain the increase in domestic violence. They all spread around. And this leads to almost like a spread like a virus. One person could lead to another, and this just multiplies out from there. But this necessarily doesn't explain how or why domestic violence could have started. So looking further, we should try to find out the reason as to why it may have started to better explain domestic violence as a whole. Learning theories can give us a lot of insight more on why domestic violence is more common. However, if we look at the other side, strain theories, which are just in which societal factors can pressure someone to commit certain acts. For an example of it is like we learned in the textbook, an example would be unemployment will cause someone to commit theft or sell drugs to make money when they don't meet ends meet. Another part of the strain theory, specifically more in Agnews general strain theory, when an individual is in a relationship, they may not be able to escape due to certain situations, like a noxious type of situation. This creates a negative stimuli. No one wants to be around. This then leads to a negative relationship toward one another, and then finally leading to negative emotions such as disappointment, depression, fear, and this most importantly, would be anger. With other studies suggesting that anger as a response to strain theories to be associated with violence, this is a perfect way of seeing how strain can be an explanation to domestic violence when this anger response is funneled towards a negative relationship. Now, Cohen tells us an extension to Merton's theory that purposeless crimes are used to gain status. So this would tell us that status, or maybe in this case, wanting to be a dominant spouse and wanting control, would cause tension. In other cases, violence between the two. In a study from the Regain Corporation, men typically want to feel like they're more in control, but right behind them, sometimes women can feel the same way, which may explain the proportions of domestic abuse where men are slightly more likely to assault their spouse than women are, and men are more likely to feel like they want to be in control than women are. Another great way that we can relate this is to what's common among the cases of domestic abuse. Again, going back to the Weinberg Divorce and Family Law, statistics they provide us can tell us that stress is like socioeconomic stress related to poverty, alcohol abuse, unemployment, lack of resources. These are all kind of associated with domestic abuse, which also means the social conditions lead to domestic abuse. Stress-related issues cause negative emotions and negative relationships between individuals. Those who struggle to make money are a little bit more likely to have some form of domestic abuse inside their house than, let's say, a rich family living in a mansion up in the hills. In conclusion, whether you're a man or a woman, domestic violence is not okay. Regardless of how angry you get, how angry you are, as a means to explain why domestic violence happens, I think strain theories would be the better option for an explanation. However, to see why it is more common in certain areas, I believe learning theories help develop the sense to others that something like domestic violence is okay. Strain theories tell us that societal pressure and negative emotions like anger to be funneled between two individuals in like the same household for an incident of abuse to occur. And this is exactly why I feel like the strain theories explain domestic violence a little bit better, is that they can tell us exactly where it came from, because not all of it is sometimes learned. It had to have started from somewhere in certain areas, and sometimes it just happens out of anger. For it to spread, I believe the learning theories can help us depict why it is more common in certain areas and certain kinds of groups as if they learn off each other. But to really figure out why domestic violence happens, I would go with the strain theories, as a matter of fact. And that's all I have. I've been Nate. Thank you for your time. Thank you.